We switch now from language to human development and learning. We're born very, very helpless, aren't we? And we achieve a certain degree of development, and there are some predictable changes that happen in the course of that time, which will be influenced by our parents, our schools, the society we grow up in. And there's some biological stuff going on, and things are very mixed up. So we're going to survey a variety of approaches to ways of coming at what's going on there as we transition from the squawking, helpless, mewling infant state to hopefully competent adults. We're going to do this through a series of topics, and the first one is going to consider ourselves as a particular kind of animal, and we're going to compare the human animal to other animals, see where we fit in. And when we survey that period from birth to relative independence across very many animals, we come across something quite remarkable. Some animals, when they are born, get up and walk. Some of them get up and hunt for food. They are, in other words, relatively independent when they come out. And we call these precocial animals. You know the word precocious, someone who can do something at an early age. Other animals, on the other hand, are born usually naked. Well, I suppose we're all naked, but I mean without hair or feathers or fur. Helpless, often blind, and in severe need of parental support. We fall into this category, and such animals are called altricial animals. So Altricial-Precocial brings into view a spectrum of possibilities for any animal. And we might ask ourselves, oh, well, if we're altricial, what are other altricial animals like? And how do we differ from those precocial animals? When we look, we find that there are birds which are born with precocial skills, able to take care of themselves, and there are birds which are born blind and helpless and in need of parental support. We find other mammals who are born with the skills ready to get up and go at birth, and there are mammals like us who are absolutely not. So we find no clear, easy way to say which kind of animals are going to be precocial and which are going to be altricial. Whatever the difference between these is, it's certainly not simply a matter that one kind of animal is more intelligent or sophisticated or more like humans than the other. And what this distinction brings to our awareness is the importance of the niche, the ecological niche into which you were born. You don't choose the time and place of your birth, obviously, and you don't choose the niche into which you are born. And some niches are more, as it were, luxurious than others. A human infant, if all goes well, will have about 20 years of care and attention and resources and help. An antelope born on the plain of the Serengeti will have to get up and walk straight after birth, or else it's just going to be eaten by something. Some of the developmental processes that are going to go on will depend on the niche being available, will depend on the presence of resources around. Now, the kind of skills we're talking about are not skills like playing the piano or writing in neat handwriting. The kind of skills we're talking about are very basic. They have to do with the ability to get around, to locomote, to feed yourself. And these kind of skills don't require an awful lot of fine-tuning. They're fairly invariant. Once you're a walker, you're just a walker. We're all pretty good at walking, for example. So those precocial animals who have that skill, they're not going to undergo a great process of fine-tuning from their environment. Whereas altricial animals are. They've got this long period of care. As a result, the kind of species which are altricial, that is, which are helpless at birth, they can pop up in quite diverse environments, leading to quite different mature adults depending on where they grow up. Look at human variety. Humans grow up in all kinds of different ways to become all kinds of different people. The map you see there on the screen is a map not of the distribution of humans, though the distribution of humans would be almost the same map. This is a map of the distribution of the brown rat, Rattus norvegicus, another altricial animal just like us. And the fact that rats and humans are found across the globe in cold climates, in warm climates, in jungles and deserts, tells us something very important. It tells us that these altricial animals, while they may be born with more or less the same biological structures, nonetheless grow up to be animals with quite different competences, living in quite different environments. So there's basically two ways of looking at this. And let's have a look at both of those. The first one says, these altricial animals, like us, of course, they are flexible and adaptive in their behavior because of the luxury they have of parental care. And those precocial animals, they're all hardwired and running on instinct. Now notice what this way of casting it does. It makes humans look really special. But we saw at the outset that animals very unlike humans are also altricial. And it's not simply a matter of being more or less like humans. So this way of looking at things emphasizes human special. It's very fond of us, as it were, and quite condemning to other animals. I don't really like that way. Another way to look at this is that what we can learn from this is the tight intertwining of the animal and the environment in which it's going to grow up. Now, when I say environment, you're probably thinking trees and flowers and meadows and so on, but an environment is much more complicated than that, and the human environment has precious little trees in it, has an awful lot of other people and social institutions and things like schools and clothes and streets. So our environment is very, very complex, and it's one that we largely construct together. And part of that environment includes, for humans, the languaging behavior of others. Now, of all the altricial animals, humans do stand out because we have the longest period of helplessness. Now, this varies from culture to culture. In some cultures, by the time you're age 7 or 10 or something like that, you're assumed to be pretty much grown up. In others, that dependency lasts a lot longer. And of course, this is now not independent of things like economic factors. But as that long period is going on, there's also biological development going on, because the body, when it comes out at birth, is not yet fully ripe, as it were. There are certain biological processes that are still ongoing. Birth is just one point along the line. There's development before birth and there's development after birth. For example, the bones in the skull of the infant need to be flexible at birth in order to get through the birth channel. And that leaves a hole at the top of their head, which is relatively unprotected. And it takes about a year for the bones to grow over there. So you can clearly see that's biological development after birth. The liver of a newborn infant is immature and not yet doing its full job, which is why young infants sometimes have jaundice. They may acquire yellow skin, which is not particularly pathological. It's just a sign that their liver isn't functioning yet. But the part of the body that undergoes biological development for the longest period is a part of the brain. It's the front of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. That's the sort of green and yellow bits you see there to the left-hand side of that brain. That development, biological development, laying down the structures that are going to serve for the rest of your life, that goes on for a long period. It's difficult to give an exact number here, but it goes on for about 18 to 21 years, which means that you're not fully biologically formed until that age. Now, we are going to be very careful in this module not to make strong claims about what parts of the brain are for. There's a lot of confusion there, and it's very difficult to be sure. But we do know that this part of the brain that is still undergoing development is crucially involved in our ability to get along with others, to behave appropriately in human society. All the various skills and capacities we might vaguely gesture at as social cognition. So the 18, 21 years of biological development are also the time in which you're learning language, coming into a family, learning about your society. And so things get very, very mixed up. Your formation as a person is being influenced by both other people, cultural, environmental influences of all kinds, while the biology is also developing. Now, as I said, we're very careful not to make strong ascriptions of functions to brain parts in this module. But we will later on meet the weird case of Mr. Phineas Gage, who brought the importance of this part of the brain to our attention by, well, as we see, severely damaging his and undergoing an enormous personality change as a result. So he blew away the part of his prefrontal cortex, and his personality as a whole changed. And what we'll see that when individuals damage this part of their brain, or while it's immature, we often see an inability to exercise self-control. Now, you might have noticed this in toddlers, 2-year-olds particularly. So that the development of this is absolutely crucial to our ability to get along with others. Now, as humans, we take longer to become self-sufficient than any other animal in the whole planet. And during this time, we are becoming encultured. We are becoming language users. We are becoming members of a society. All the while, this is mixed up with biological development. So this is a very important point, and one we'll be revisiting as we treat of different topics here. We are not simply biology plus culture. You cannot separate the two. I started this video saying we're going to look at our humans as animals. When we do so, we realize that humans as that very special animal that has culture, yeah, that still is on a biological basis, and we cannot cleanly separate influences of biology and culture. No more than you can hope to unbake a cake after it's been baked. So with that gentle introduction, we move on and develop our notions around language and learning and development a bit further.